I want to talk about what has been good for you. You've got a new book out, Think Remarkable,
Yes.
and it looks like it's going well. It sounds like it's going very well. There it is. Before we get too far into that, what about you personally? Just what is good in your world right now? What's positive to start off the show on a positive note?
Wow, my world. I'm a very lucky guy. So I live in Santa Cruz, California, and I am primarily I'm Chief Evangelist of Canva, which is going very well. And I am a podcaster with Remarkable People, which what led to the book Think Remarkable. And I surf a lot. I'm gonna go surf today. So, my life is good. My life is good. You don't have to cry any tears for me, Argentina.
Well, you mentioned the idea of a chief evangelist. It reminds me of Ethan Butte. For those who are watching or listening, what is a chief evangelist? Because it's not something that we hear every day in the banking space, although I could see a chief evangelist playing an important role as we continue forward into this age of AI. What does it mean?
Yeah. Well, evangelism comes from a Greek word that means bringing the good news. So I bring the good news. I brought the good news of Macintosh in my prior life. And now I'm bringing the good news of Canva, that Canva has democratized design and enabled people to be better communicators without having to learn Photoshop and Illustrator, basically.
Absolutely. But it's interesting you mentioned this idea of democratization. And you think about what has happened. Peter Diamandis has the 6 Ds of digitization, democratization, demonetization, etc. When we look at what's going on right now, it's can be a very exciting time. It could be somewhat, for some could perceive as a very scary time. But you make a very interesting point. It could also be a remarkable time with your book,
Yes.
Think Remarkable. And you have shared thinking, you have shared insights from over 200 extraordinary people. Why write the book and why now?
Uh, a big advance.
It's uh,
I
it's
love telling.
I,
I love answering that way because everybody thinks, "Oh, this guy's being honest."
Honesty is the best policy.
So, listen, my podcast is 5 years old now, so it's now about 250 hours of episodes and 5,000 pages of transcripts. And we're very fortunate. We have people like Jane Goodall and Stacey Abrams. Let's see, Steve Wozniak, Stephen Wolfram, Bob Cialdini, Katie Milkman, Angela Duckworth, Carol Dweck. I mean, just to drop some names. And so there's a lot of information and inspiration in my podcast, but nobody's going to listen to 250 hours or read 5,000 pages. So I started believing I have a moral obligation to cut that down into a bite-sized piece, and that's what it is.
You mentioned Carol Dweck, growth mindset. You open up the book, chapter 1, with this. Why why is growth mindset such an important quality when it comes to thinking remarkably?
Well, I mean, basically, if you want to make a difference in the world, you have to have a growth mindset because making a difference implies that there's change. And if there's change, there's growth. So if you have a fixed mindset and you believe in preserving the status quo, or you believe that you are set for life, or you cannot learn anything new, you're probably not going to make a difference. And so that's where it starts. I mean, everybody who's been on my podcast has a growth mindset. Otherwise, they would not make a difference. They would not be remarkable. I mean, it is that simple.
Okay. For a financial brand leader, a banker, credit union leader, lender, I often sometimes see they look at the world maybe through more of a fixed mindset.
Mm.
What's the opportunity to transform that fix to growth to continue to see new opportunities and be remarkable?
Well, I mean, I can't say I blame them because uh, the banking industry is so heavily regulated, right?
Mm.
And so that there's a lot of limitations on what you can do, but still at the end of the day, a brand is a brand, whether it's a bank or a car. And I think that certain brands are associated with certain kind of things, like, to take a negative example. You can cut this out of the recording, but
Oh, we'll keep it.
it's like hard for me to wrap my mind around trying to do business with Wells Fargo after they created millions of fake accounts, right? And like, why would you get involved with that today if you're opening up an account? I mean, and so I think that brand is so harmed, but yet it's there, it's doing business. So what do I know? I think that if you have a growth mindset, you try to figure out, what can I do to make my bank stand out in the minds of people? And I think a lot of it is like small details. And listen, I used to be a customer of Silicon Valley Bank, so I had that
Hmm.
amazing traumatic situation. I mean, it was going to be a very bad day, you know.
Yes.
Um, and now that first, what is it? First, what's the name of the bank that
That
First
took.
Citizens?
Yep.
Yeah, First Citizens bought Silicon Valley Bank, and let's just say the transition is a non-trivial task to go from one thing to another, and I just think there's always these opportunities to provide better service or good service for your customers. And I'll give you a little nitpick that banks might just relate to, which
Sure.
is that um, let's say this is in the consumer banking world because that's the world I know, right? I'm not a private equity hedge fund kind of guy. Um, so when I love the fact that you can make a mobile deposit, right? Take the picture of the front and the back, and bada bing, bada bang, it's in your account. That is a beautiful, beautiful thing. But what bugs me is that I know that the picture was taken with my camera on my phone. And 6 months from now, when I want to look up that deposit for $1,000 because I need to know if that was an income or expense reimbursal, was it personal, was it, does it have tax consequences? I cannot remember for the life of me what was that $1,000 in the first week of April. Well, I know that I took a picture of it and deposited it. So why isn't that picture in my photo album?
Yeah.
And then in 2024, I would make the case that with all this LLMs and all this AI, if you can fake people's identities and fake people's voices and fake, people's acting and all that, how come you're so stupid and you cannot say that, oh, this is a picture of a check, we should put it in an album called Checks,
Right.
so that 6 months from now, I can go to his, you know, photo albums and say, okay, let me look at the Checks album. And also, there's a business card album. I mean, like, why can't there be that level of recognition so
Mm.
that 6 months from now, I can look at all my pictures that were mobile deposits are in one album called Checks?
Or
I don't
receipts.
understand that. Why
Well,
can't that be?
I appreciate your thinking, and it is just that it is thinking here. And I think a lot of times we get so stuck in the doing and the old previous paradigm that um and I'm gonna play on words here. It's hard to think different. Um what
Well,
and you know a lot
I
about thinking differently.
but I mean, let, so listen. So why does this occur? Why this is a very simple example, right? Now, okay. Maybe there's some banking regulation that says, if you take a picture of a mobile deposit, it cannot go into the general photo selection because of some Glass-Steagall Act or something. I don't know, but um, I bet you it's more that the executives of the bank, they don't use mobile deposits. I mean, they get like everything is direct pay, everything is wire transfer, everything is, they haven't touched a paper check for 20 years. So like they have no idea like the pain in the ass to look for a deposit 6 months old that you took a picture of, because they don't take pictures and they don't make mobile deposits. So which comes to one of my theories in my book that, yeah, if you want to be remarkable and make a difference, and by that I mean grow, one of the ways of growth strategy is go and see how your customers are using your product. Go and see how Guy is making a mold deposit. Or even better, go and be So go and be guy. Go and, have your first citizens mobile check deposit system and go deposit your own checks and see what it's like to when your accountant asks you in 6 months, what was that $1,000 for? And you say, I don't know, but I know I took a picture. Well, I'll just have my personal assistant call his personal assistant at headquarters and find a copy of that picture. That's not how Guy works. I mean,
It's where empathy comes back into play and can go a long way. When we look at leaning into people and connecting with people at a deeper human level, as I mentioned before, you've had 200 plus conversations. You mentioned it's 5,000 pages, and you've been able to distill this down. Thinking about your own remarkable journey, who has been a remarkable person that has helped guide you along your journey of growth that you've met?
yeah. Well, I'll tell you something. I can give you like a real bifurcation of examples. So at one level, Carol Dweck, mother of the growth mindset, she definitely changed my perspective. To wit, I took up ice hockey at 44 and surfing at 60, which is roughly 34 and 50 years too late. But that was because I started embracing the growth mindset. Like, why shouldn't I take up hockey having never skated in my life or surfing having never surfed in my life? So Carol Dweck is at one level. There was another book called If You Want to Write by Brenda Euland, and it's obviously for writers, but it's for any creative process. So if you are an artist or a musician, if you are just trying to like, if you could be a creative cook and you would enjoy if you want to write. Basically, it's saying that if you want to write. You don't need a PhD in English. You don't need to take a course in creative writing. Just if you want to write, for crying out loud, just write. So that's at one extreme of the influences. But then I'll tell you something. There's a sixth grade teacher in my life. This is let's see, probably 60 years ago. And I was from a lower middle class part of Honolulu, Hawaii, and I was in the public school system, which is not that great a system in Hawaii. And this sixth grade teacher told my parents to take me out of the public school system, put me in a private college prep system because I had potential to go to college. And, knock on wood, my parents listened to her. Knock on wood, my parents were able to make the sacrifice for me to go to a private school. So I went from this track to a private school. The private school led me, I don't know how, by some miracle, I went to Stanford. Stanford, I met the guy who eventually hired me at Apple. And from Apple, and the rest is history, as they say. So as I look back on my life, one of the people who changed the arc of my life was this remarkable sixth grade teacher. And you're never going to hear her name. She's not Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or Jane Goodall or Bob Cialdini or Stacey Abrams, but she was remarkable for me.
Well, when you talk about that, that reminds me of Miss Spradley. She was my 10th grade teacher, and she was the one who turned me on to the power of story and narrative and writing. I never thought that I would write a book, yet alone a second book that is about to come out myself. But it all comes back to Miss Spradley
Yeah.
providing that path forward. And I know you heap a lot of praise on teachers in your book. I mean, I think about Carol Dweck and her work with growth mindset. That has had a positive impact on my family. My kids are in a program. It's called the Connect program at school, and for the first 6 weeks, when they enter into fourth grade, they do nothing but talk about growth mindset. And I know if I had that experience back then, it would have totally reshaped and reframed how I thought about
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
growth and
Yeah.
failure. So
Yeah.
I'm
I mean,
grateful for
they
that.
see I hope my book is used in that kind of program, right? I mean, because I lay the whole thing out, how to embrace the growth mindset, the grit mindset, and the grace mindset.